The last text my wife ever sent me was a selfie from a bar in Santa Monica. 2 margaritas deep with her best friend and some caption like, "Living our best lives." I remember staring at it for too long, blinking at the smile on her face. It was the kind of expression that used to mean something carefree, warm, mine. My name is Marcus Doyle. I'm 39 years old, a software developer based out of Austin, Texas. I work mostly freelance contracts these days, back-end systems, data security, occasional white hat work for private firms. I'm good at spotting anomalies. I see patterns where most people see noise. I didn't catch the first one until it was too late. A week ago, I had a wife named Lena. We'd been together 10 years, married for 7. Our wedding was small, intimate. She'd cried during our vows. I remember because I almost dropped the ring fumbling with my jacket, hands trembling with the weight of it all. Felt like something permanent. Felt like home. 3 days ago, she flew out for what she called a long overdue girls' trip to California. Said she needed time, air, sunsets, ocean waves. I supported it, encouraged it even, thought it was healthy. She packed light. A duffel, some beach reeds, one of those woven straw hats she only wore when she wanted to feel cinematic. Yesterday, I woke up to an email alert from our bank. Large transaction withdrawal, $47,693.85. Another one followed, then a third. Then the account read, balance, $13.06. For about a minute, I thought it had to be a glitch. I refreshed, logged out, logged back in. Nothing changed. Then came the phone call, her number on my screen. My heart picked up, but it wasn't Lena. It was some guy named Brad. His voice was steady, too calm for what he was saying. "She doesn't want to speak to you," he said, no preamble. "She asked me to call to let you know she's not coming back. She's safe. She's fine. She just needs to start over." I remember every word, etched into my brain like a brand. I didn't speak for a while, just sat there on the edge of our bed, my hands still warm from holding the phone, feeling my pulse in my teeth. Then I opened my laptop. I didn't cry, not then. I traced the transfers, all legit, all authorized, scheduled, even some of them had been queued for days. From our joint savings, from the emergency fund we'd built, from the side account I thought she didn't even know about. It wasn't just betrayal. It was architecture. She'd been planning this. She changed all her passwords, wiped her iCloud, shut down her social media accounts. The Airbnb she'd booked in Santa Monica had a 2-week reservation, paid in full from a card I didn't even recognize. I still have no idea who Brad is. What I do know is this: Lena thought she'd buried everything, that she left no crumbs, no digital trace. She had no idea about the failsafes I built into our home server. She didn't know about the keylogger I installed last year after a minor phishing scare. Just a precaution, I'd said. She forgot how I handle security breaches for a living. That spotting inconsistencies is literally what I'm paid to do. She thought she disappeared, but she left a trail, and now I'm following it. The first time I noticed something was off was about 3 months ago. Lena started working out more. At first, I was proud of her. She'd mentioned a few times that she felt sluggish, out of shape. So I cheered her on, bought her new running shoes, protein powder, a smartwatch to track her steps. But then she started coming home later. Excuses ranged from yoga to dinner with the girls to just driving around, clearing my head. When I'd ask who she was with, she'd mention names, but always a different group, always vague. We were still having sex, but it became more mechanical, like she was somewhere else, somewhere far away, even when she was right on top of me. The biggest red flag came when she asked me to update the beneficiaries on our life insurance policy. "Just in case," she'd said, brushing it off like a casual adulting chore. That night, I remember staring at her signature on the document, wondering why her handwriting looked more precise than usual, like it had been practiced. But I didn't question it. I loved her. I trusted her. She was my wife. I realize now, trust isn't something you give blindly. It's a currency, and I'd been overpaying. It's been 2 days since that phone call from Brad. I've barely slept. The house is still, too quiet. Her toothbrush is gone. So are most of her clothes. She took the photo albums, which feels like a punch in the gut. Like she knew I'd want to cling to memories, and made sure there was nothing left. But she didn't take my drive backups, or the router logs, or the access timestamps. She missed the second laptop I keep under the guest bed. And she definitely didn't think I'd check the old email we used when we were planning our honeymoon. It had been dormant for years, but she must have reused it for something. Maybe thought I'd forgotten about it. She used it to sign up for a private financial management app. Probably thought it'd be a good place to hide money. She forgot that I built half of the back end for that app. And now I have access to every account she's tried to squirrel away. What she doesn't know is that while she was transferring our savings, I was already on the back end looking at her move history. A few thousand here, couple hundred there. Months of slow drip embezzlement, right under my nose. She left me broke, but not blind, not helpless, and definitely not done. I've started compiling a file, not for revenge, not out of spite, but because I need to understand the full extent of the lie I lived in. I need closure, justice maybe, or at the very least, truth. So far, the evidence includes a sequence of IP addresses tracing her logins to locations she never told me about. Messages between her and someone saved as S. Hidden in a folder she probably thought I couldn't decrypt. An invoice from a private investigator, addressed to her, paid in full from 6 weeks ago. I have no idea who she was investigating. Maybe me, maybe someone else. There's a deeper game here, and I'm gonna figure it out. I've always been the quiet one. The one who listens more than he talks, who notices things people think go unseen. Lena thought I'd break, but what she doesn't know is that when something's broken, I don't throw it out. I dismantle it, I study it, and then I rebuild. Better, smarter, and this time without her. I always believed that silence was neutral, that it was just the absence of sound, nothing more. But sitting alone in this house, with nothing but the hum of the refrigerator and the occasional creak of settling wood, I realize silence is something much more aggressive. Presses in. It demands attention. It forces you to confront every damn thing you've tried to ignore. I stared at the compiled evidence on my monitor. Line after line of transaction logs. IP addresses pinned onto a digital map. Messages stripped of their emojis and casual tones, revealing a cold, calculated undercurrent. There was a name that kept popping up, S. Sometimes just an initial. Sometimes a full first name, Shane. It didn't mean anything to me at first. We didn't have any friends named Shane. No co-workers. No family members. But Shane appeared in too many places to be nothing. Venmo transfers, calendar invites, even a few Google Docs Lena had accessed, titled innocuously enough, things like trip budget and to-do list. It wasn't hard to pull the metadata off the documents. Shane's full email address surfaced. And with that, it all started to come into focus. Shane Whitmore, age 41, occupation, real estate agent, location, Santa Monica. One LinkedIn search later, and I was looking at his smiling headshot, complete with a blazer over a too-tight t-shirt, the kind of style that screamed midlife crisis in high definition. He wasn't hard to find. None of it was once you knew where to look. It was worse than I thought. She wasn't just leaving me. She had someone else lined up to catch her on the way down. I sat back in my chair and closed my eyes, pinching the bridge of my nose until little sparks fired behind my eyelids. My brain felt too full, like it was trying to process two conflicting versions of reality at the same time. I thought about all the small moments, the late nights, the glances at her phone she thought I didn't see, the sudden breath of new perfume that didn't smell like anything she wore before, each moment harmless on its own. Together, they spelled out a story I hadn't let myself read. Denial is a powerful drug. I needed to get ahead of this before it swallowed me whole. The first move was simple. I needed legal advice. I wasn't naive. I knew any action I took would need to be clean, documented, above board. Emotionally driven retaliation would only get me burned. I contacted an attorney, someone I'd once done a security audit for, a transactional lawyer who owed me a favor. He agreed to meet me the next day, said he could point me toward the right specialists: asset recovery, divorce proceedings, fraud examination. Before hanging up, he said something that stuck with me. "Move quietly, Marcus. People make mistakes when they think they've won." I liked that. That night, I found myself sitting at the kitchen counter, a whiskey glass sweating under my fingertips, scrolling back through Lena's Instagram history. It felt like archaeological work, brushing away layers of curated smiles and filtered sunsets. 2 months ago, a photo of our anniversary dinner. Her hand over mine, her ring flashing under candlelight. Caption: "To my forever." My chest tightened. Not from grief, not anymore. From rage. The next photo, posted 3 days later, was a solo shot of her on a hiking trail, arms outstretched, looking wild and free. Caption: "Learning to love myself again." That was the pivot point, right there. While I was still kissing her goodnight, she was already packing her parachute. The next morning, I met with the attorney, Patrick Green, at a small, tucked-away office downtown. The place smelled like leather and old paper. No windows, no distractions. He listened without interrupting as I laid everything out. The withdrawals, the disappearance, the trail I'd started to piece together. I showed him printouts, server logs, the evidence package I'd built like a man possessed. When I finished, he nodded slowly, tapping a pen against his notepad. "She's committed financial fraud," he said. "Potentially identity theft, too, depending on how she accessed and authorized those transfers. Definitely marital misconduct, which is significant in a divorce." He outlined a plan: file a formal motion to freeze any known assets she still controlled. Issue a financial injunction, preventing her from selling or transferring property. Open a forensic investigation into hidden accounts and irregular transactions. File for divorce under grounds of fraud and abandonment. Every word felt like a hammer driving nails into the coffin of the life I thought I had. I agreed to it all. If Lena wanted to burn down our life, fine. But she would be standing in the ashes alone. Leaving the law office, I felt a strange calm settle over me, like stepping into a storm you can finally see, instead of feeling it tear at you from blind angles. I wasn't powerless. I wasn't broken. I was awake. I went back home, methodically cleaning out everything she'd left behind. Old clothes, forgotten makeup bags, a half-used candle that smelled like vanilla and beach bonfires. I boxed it all up and stored it in the garage. Out of sight, out of reach. I spent the rest of the evening securing everything she might try to access. Changed all passwords. Set up two-factor authentication on every account. Alerted the credit bureaus and froze my credit reports. Installed new security cameras around the property. If she tried to come back, for any reason, I'd know. And I'd be ready. Around midnight, I sat back at my desk, staring at the monitor again. There was a new message notification blinking on the old honeymoon email account. I opened it without thinking. It was from a burner address. No subject line, no greeting, just one sentence. "You weren't supposed to find out." My skin prickled. I read it again and again. No name, no signature, but the timing was too perfect. It was her. I knew it with the kind of certainty that only comes from having your heart broken by someone's handwriting. She knew I was digging. Good. Let her know. I smiled, the first real smile in days, and began drafting my reply. Not angry, not desperate, just a simple line of my own. "You have no idea what you started. When you strip a person down, when you take away their job, their marriage, their savings, you find out what's left." For me, it wasn't bitterness. It wasn't blind fury. It was clarity. That's what Lena gave me when she stole our future and ran. The clearest vision of who I really was, and what I was capable of when pushed. The morning after her anonymous email, I made a decision. I wasn't going to play defense anymore. If Lena wanted to play games, I was going to outplay her. I started with Shane. It wasn't hard. He was just arrogant enough to leave footprints all over the internet, Yelp reviews, tagged photos, a public Facebook profile with the security settings of a drunk teenager. One of his posts, from 2 weeks before Lena's girls' trip, was particularly revealing. A selfie in a downtown Austin steakhouse. The caption, "Best night ever with my favorite person. Here's to new beginnings." No tag, no face visible but his. But in the wineglass reflection, distorted, faint, I could just make out a woman's hand. French manicured nails. A silver bracelet with tiny charms. The same bracelet I bought Lena for our 5th anniversary. It wasn't just a vacation. It wasn't a fling. It was months in the making. Once I had that, I started digging deeper into Lena's digital history. There were more burner accounts, more payments routed through sneaky channels, prepaid visas, crypto wallets opened under fake usernames. It wasn't amateur hour either. She knew enough to cover her tracks well enough that the average person, hell, even the average investigator, would have hit dead ends. But I wasn't average. I lived in the places she thought were invisible. In one of the hidden email threads, I found a conversation that made my blood run cold. It wasn't about money. It was about me. They'd been planning to move into a condo together. A place Shane had already bought under a shell company. The move-in date? 3 days from now. She didn't even have the decency to let the dust settle. I took a walk after that. No destination, just movement. The city felt different under my feet, sharper somehow. Like the sidewalks could cut if you weren't careful. It would have been so easy to spiral, to sink into rage. But every step I took, I kept thinking back to what Patrick told me. Move quietly. People make mistakes when they think they've won. I wasn't going to confront her. Not yet. Instead, I was going to pull the last thread in her little tapestry and watch it all unravel. Back at home, I logged into the financial management app she thought I wouldn't find. I watched the balance on her secret account tick upward, $49,730.13. That was money she thought she'd gotten away with. Money that was still, technically, legally half mine until the divorce finalized. I initiated a forensic review request through the app's backend. Normally, that would have triggered alerts to the account owner. But I still had admin-level access from my consulting days. I knew how to mask it. The request slid through undetected. By morning, I'd have full visibility into every single dollar, and a legal paper trail to match. But there was something else gnawing at me, something that didn't quite add up. If it was just about money and Shane, why the burner emails? Why the private investigator invoice I'd found in her files? Why the feeling, deep in my gut, that there was a bigger move happening under the surface? That's when I made a second call. Not to Patrick, not to a friend, to someone who owed me. His name was Elijah Brooks, an ex-intelligence analyst turned private digital detective. We'd worked together years ago, disassembling a blackmail ring that had targeted one of my clients. I gave him the short version. He listened without judgment. Then he said, "I'll run her. Deep, you sure you want everything?" I thought about that for a second longer than I should have. Then, yes, everything. Took Elijah less than 24 hours. And what he sent me, it made everything before this look like child's play. Lena wasn't just planning a new life with Shane. She was planning an escape. From me, from debt collectors, from a criminal investigation into financial fraud linked to a company she'd secretly worked for 2 years ago. A scam operation that had collapsed quietly, leaving behind a trail of unpaid investors and open warrants. She wasn't just betraying me. She was running because she was guilty. And she was trying to use me, my clean credit, my name, my stability, as her escape hatch. Everything she stole, everything she transferred, wasn't just to start over. It was to disappear completely before the walls closed in. And the best part? The moment she moved into Shane's condo, property that could be tied to fraudulent funds, she'd implicate him, too. They thought they were starting a new life. They were building a new prison, brick by brick. I sat back, staring at the report Elijah sent. I felt nothing. No anger, no heartbreak, just a quiet, steady satisfaction. The kind you get when you finally see the whole chessboard laid out and realize your opponents already checkmated themselves 3 moves ago. All I had to do now was move the last piece and watch it all fall apart. The day Lena moved in with Shane, the sky over Austin cracked open with rain. Thick sheets of it, pounding against the pavement like some slow, inevitable drumbeat. I watched it from the living room window, one hand wrapped around a mug of black coffee gone cold hours ago. There was no satisfaction yet. Not yet. I'd spent the morning coordinating with Patrick and Elijah, finalizing every last step. Everything needed to be precise, surgical. This wasn't about rage. It was about reclamation. At 2:16 p.m., I got the confirmation text from Elijah. They're in. Meaning Lena and Shane had officially signed the condo lease paperwork. Lena under an alias, but one we had documented connections to her real identity through digital trails and financial footprints. Meaning the fraud investigation could now formally and legally tie her to criminal activity across state lines. Meaning she had just walked herself directly into the snare. That same afternoon, Patrick filed the injunction orders. A financial restraining order against any account in her name, direct or indirect. A lien against the condo property, filed under suspicion of using stolen funds. And a formal notice to Lena's lawyer, one she must have scrambled to hire quietly, stating that a civil suit for damages and recovery was being initiated. She wouldn't see it yet. Not until tomorrow morning. We made sure the timing was perfect. But by then, it would already be too late. I spent the rest of the evening preparing something I hadn't expected to. A letter. Not to the courts. Not to her attorney. To Lena herself. A real letter. Ink on paper. No threats. No gloating. Just the truth she had spent so long avoiding. I sat at the kitchen table, the same one where we'd once spent hours planning our future, and wrote, Lena, I loved you. Fully, foolishly, with the kind of trust people write vows about and never imagine breaking. You didn't just walk away from me. You dismantled everything we built. Piece by piece. Quietly. Cruelly. But you forgot something important. When you burn a bridge, you can't choose which side the fire consumes first. You thought you were erasing your tracks. You thought you were disappearing cleanly. You didn't. You left fingerprints everywhere. I know everything now. About Shane. About the shell accounts. About the fraud you thought you buried 2 years ago. And now, so does the law. I'm not writing this to beg, or threaten, or even to forgive. I'm writing because someday, when you're sitting in a sterile room with cold fluorescent lights overhead, when you're replaying every decision that brought you there, I want you to remember this. You didn't lose because you made mistakes. You lost because you underestimated the wrong man. Goodbye, Marcus. I folded the letter neatly, slid it into an envelope, and drove through the rain to the condo address Elijah had verified. It was a quiet street, lined with those sterile, polished condos that all looked identical, whitewashed walls, big glass windows, tiny manicured lawns pretending to be gardens. Her car was parked outside. The same dented blue Civic I'd helped her pick out 6 years ago. There was a weird ache in my chest seeing it, like the last ghost of something real flickering out. I didn't ring the doorbell. I didn't knock. I just slipped the envelope under the door, turned, and walked away. The next morning, everything detonated at once. Lena's accounts froze. The lien hit the property records. The civil suit papers were delivered by a process server while she and Shane were still in pajamas, according to Elijah's very gleeful report. By noon, I got a flurry of angry, panicked texts from an unknown number. Hers, I guessed. I didn't read them. I didn't need to, because at 1:43 p.m., Patrick called me with the news. Federal investigators had picked up the fraud case. It wasn't just a civil matter anymore. It was criminal. I should have felt vindicated, triumphant, maybe even happy. Instead, I just felt empty. Not hollow exactly. More like something heavy had finally been set down after carrying it for far too long. I went for a walk again. Same streets, same city, but this time the world felt different. Lighter. I wasn't carrying her betrayal anymore. It was hers alone now. I ended the day sitting on the back porch, watching the last sliver of sun bleed out behind the horizon. There was a finality to it, the kind you don't celebrate but you honor all the same. I thought about the man I was 3 months ago, the one who believed love was enough, the one who thought trust was unconditional. That man was gone, and the one who remained, smarter, stronger, someone who didn't just survive betrayal, someone who understood it and walked away from its wreckage whole. 3 months later, the house felt different. The walls didn't echo with absence anymore. The rooms didn't feel haunted by conversations that would never happen again. It was just space now, mine. The divorce went through faster than anyone expected. Lena didn't fight it. She couldn't. Facing criminal charges, asset seizures, and a federal investigation, she had bigger problems than me. Last I heard, Shane cut ties and lawyered up as soon as the indictments started rolling in. I didn't follow the case obsessively. I didn't need to. Some things, once broken, stay broken. And I wasn't going to stand there staring at the wreckage forever. Rebuilding wasn't what I thought it would be. There was no dramatic montage of triumph. No sudden swell of pride or victory. It was quieter, simpler. It was learning to wake up without the spike of dread in my chest. It was cooking for one and not feeling sorry for myself. It was taking long walks and actually looking at the world instead of dragging my hurt behind me like a chain. It was realizing that surviving betrayal isn't about revenge. It's about refusing to let someone else's choices define your life. I started freelancing again. Small contracts at first, then bigger ones. My reputation, my real one, had survived untouched. Word spread quietly among clients who valued discretion and resilience. Turns out, there's a certain gravity to a man who's been through hell and didn't come out bitter. There's strength in not being destroyed. One evening, about 6 months after the day Lena left, I found myself in a little bookstore tucked between 2 coffee shops downtown. I wasn't looking for anything, just browsing, letting the hours pass like river water over stones. A woman bumped into me near the philosophy section. She apologized, smiled. It wasn't the kind of smile that demanded anything. It was just a simple, human thing. Real. We got to talking. Books, travel, life after disappointment. Her name was Rachel. She had a laugh that started deep in her chest and seemed to light up the corners of the room. I didn't tell her about Lena. Not right away. Not because I was hiding anything, but because Rachel deserved to know me for who I was now. Not just the ruins of who I used to be. We took it slow. No illusions. No rushed promises. Just honest conversations and cautious hope. And somewhere along the way, I realized something important. Betrayal doesn't define you. What you build after it, that defines you. Looking back, there's no single moment when I got over what happened. Healing didn't arrive like a flash of lightning. It crept in quietly, like sunrise easing into the dark. Little by little, until one day, I woke up and realized the worst was behind me, and better things were ahead. If Lena ever thinks of me now, wherever she is, I hope it stings just a little, not because I wish her harm, but because she'll know deep down that when she gambled with my life, she bet against the wrong man. And she lost. Completely. As for me, I didn't just survive her leaving. I survived becoming someone stronger because of it. And the life I'm building now is mine. Every choice, every scar, every sunrise, mine. And there's a peace in that deeper than anything I ever thought I'd find.